Here's a picture I worked on all night of Arlong and some of his pirates. Hope you enjoy it. Remember to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for more artwork like this. Take it easy, Nation.
One Piece, Chapter 70, The Great Adventures of Usopp the Man.
Well, hello! Welcome, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, and expected, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the mind-bending and action-packed tale of One Piece. Ultimately, it is about the journey, and that is what we are on. We are just, we are knee-deep, and it's getting better. It's only getting better. So, while the last chapter saw Luffy and Sanji and Yosaku setting out on their journey to catch up with, of course, Nami, where she had gone. We found out a lot about the background of and the history and things that go into the Grand Line. But ultimately, the bottom line is we were told that we were going to Arlong Park. We were then introduced to Arlong and a couple of his crew. And then the chapter ended up with us seeing Nami come back with her haul, and her and Arlong seem to be very chummy, very close, and she's introduced as an officer of Arlong's crew. And that's kind of how things are left off. Johnny and it looks like Johnny and Usopp have kind of peered over a wall to see that that's where they're at in Arlong Park. So the chapter picks up, and this chapter is all about Zoro and Usopp and Johnny, and as they're sailing in and coming in close to Arlong Park, Usopp winds up finding in the distance. He goes and he sees kind of off to the side through the binoculars. He says, "Oh, there's the merry-go." As she kind of docked it in a weird place, and he's like, "Let's go that way." And all of a sudden, Usopp gets all big and he's like, "We're gonna go," and this and that. And Zoro, prior to that, was like, "We'll go through Arlong Park. We'll just hack everything to pieces." And so you see in the next scene, they've tied Johnny and Usopp have tied up Zoro, because it's like, "Listen, buddy, we appreciate your enthusiasm, but you're still healing from your wounds, from the battle with Hawkeye, and you just need to sit the fuck down, okay, and just back of the bus for a second." So Usopp's like, "And I will set sail for a great adventure," and he gets into this big long monologue, and he says, "And we will call this the adventure of Usopp the Man," And Johnny goes, "Yeah, you all of a sudden seem to get a lot less tense once you realize that we weren't going directly to Arlong Park." Apparently, from what they say, although it's still in the same area, the same island, it's over off to the side, and it's close to Cocoa Village is where they say that the merry-go has docked. So as they're coming close to the merry-go and they're getting close to it, they wind up seeing a boat with some fishmen. And they're like, "Oh my God, the fishmen, keep going," So they just kind of keep going. And Zoro's like, "Hey, wait, slow down, stop, we're going right past it." And they're like, "You don't want to mess with the fishman," That's what Johnny says. So Usopp and him, then they go in the next panel, they actually get noticed. The fishmen are like, "Hey, I didn't notice that boat there, turn around," and they go towards them. Well, Usopp and Johnny, sorry, Zoro, they just dive over the side and jump ship and leave Zoro tied up. He's tied to the ship. So the fishmen come upon the ship, and they go and make mention of. They say, "Oh, you must have been a prisoner. It looks like you were. Looks like they tortured you as well." Because Zoro's still, of course, bandaged up and bruised and beaten and cut from his battle with Hawkeye. So, and he goes, and Zoro's thinking to himself, "I'm going to kill those guys, right?" So then we see them pop their heads out of the water, and you can just see their heads and their mouths above the water. And Usopp and Johnny and like, "Sorry about that," and Johnny's like, "Sorry, brother Zoro." So they wind up getting onto the so Zoro, of course, gets taken away, we assume, by the fishmen, and Usopp and Johnny wind up getting on land, and they just see just some complete destruction at this village, and they're told that this is Gosa Village, and all the houses. I mean, there's this huge rut track that was made by someone or something right down the middle of where the street should be, and they make mention of all the houses are turned upside down. And they say that this is where Arlong must have come through a few weeks ago. That somebody in this village pissed him off, or whatever. The villagers pissed him off, basically, and this is the type of destruction. Johnny makes mention of fishmen and how they're 10 times stronger than a normal human. So, but I mean, you can only imagine the strength to actually physically remove a house from its moorings and its anchorings and flip it upside down. So this village has literally been turned upside down. And and as this is going on and they're kind of talking amongst themselves, all of a sudden we see Johnny just go and take off, and we're like, what what the hell? And in the next shot, you go and you see this huge menacing shadow come up behind Usopp, and Usopp turns around and it's one of the Fishmen, and he's like, oh, you know, like a castaway or a whatever. We didn't know about you, and he starts coming after him. Well, Johnny's like, oh, I just barely got away. You see him hiding around the corner, and he goes, now I'll just wait for I'll just wait for Luffy and Brother Yusaku. And so Usopp goes, and then he's running like hell, right? And that's his deal, you know. He's like, I'm fast, I'm quick, I can run. So he's going and he's running from, you know, from this giant fishman or whatever. And then all of a sudden we wind up, he comes upon the kid that we saw towards the end of last chapter that was trying to get into Arlong Park, and he had a beef to settle with, score to settle with Arlong. You know, he said he killed my father and he had a knife, he was going to kill him. And Nami knocked him on his ass, cold cocked him, and gave him some money and said, get out of here, you know. So this kid goes and he's like, oh, a fishman, because he sees Usopp running at him. And I don't know if it's because of the, you know, the do that he wears, like the I don't know, the bandana or whatever on his hat, and he's got the big nose, and I don't know, whatever. I guess he appears to him to be a fishman. So the kid goes and trips him up and pretty much clotheslines him and cold cocks Usopp mid-run, you know. And you're just thinking, what the hell? He's like, I'm not a fishman. So then, out of nowhere, all of a sudden, this kid gets backhanded and bitch slapped by this girl. And she says, no, said he may look like a fish man, but look closely. He's human, sort of. And Usopp's like, what do you mean, sort of? But he obviously looks a little strange to them. So we're introduced, and the woman is Nojiko from Cocoa Village, and the little boy is Chabo, and he's from from Gosa Village. So, you know, and she basically says, she's like, well, you know, he's not a fishman. So anyway, the fishman goes and catches up, the actual fishman goes and is catching up to them, and Usopp's like, you're not going to hurt this woman and child, and he goes to pull back his slingshot like he's going to nail him, and she goes and she's like, don't touch the fishman, and she smacks him, cold cocks his ass, right? And we're like, what the hell? So that, you know, the panel ends, and you're like, oh, is she working with the fishman or what? Flips to the next page, and then it goes and it says, just outside of Cocoa Village, and it shows this house or whatever. So Usopp wakes up, and he's kind of dizzy. He's been cold-cocked. And she winds up talking. First of all, she talks to the kid, and she goes and she's explaining to him and to Usopp that, listen, you don't touch the fishmen, you know. I mean, if you touch them, you lay a hand on them, they'll kill you, you know. So obviously, whatever she did, she was able to knock Usopp out and then get away or get out of there before they were able to grab her. So, and you know, she introduces herself as Nojiko. She says that she grows tangerines. And the little boy, and then she is explaining to the boy, you know, that you cannot touch them, you know, you could leave them alone. You should know that. And he says, well, you know, I went to Arlong Park, and there was this witch there that you know, that stopped me from trying to attack Arlong and everything else. And he goes into this thing about how, you know, because she says, you know, you should know that you're from Gosa Village, right? The village that was turned upside down with the big rut in the middle of it. So he goes and he says, yeah, you know, they came through there and there was these huge monsters they unleashed that basically destroyed everything and annihilated everything. So Usopp's like, monsters? There's monsters here, you know? And that's when he explains about, you know, I went to Arlong Park to try to get revenge. So she goes and, you know, she basically says, okay, so now, you know what, go ahead and ruin your life if you want to, you dipshit, because now, you know, this other person that saved you, and now me from being killed by the fishmen, and you still want to throw your life away? Screw you, you know? And she's pissed off. So she goes outside and kind of storms off, and Usopp comes out, and she's like, you're just going to let that kid go and die? She says, yeah, if that's what he wants to do. He wants to throw away his damn life, you know? And so Usopp goes and he's talking to her or whatever, and it winds up coming out, you know, as he goes and explains why he's here and who he's looking for. He's talking to her, and he obviously conveys that he's looking for Nami, and she goes and she says, you know, and all of a sudden you see him with this word, what? She's with Arlong's pirates? And she goes, well, yeah, you know, she's known in these parts. She's very well known in these parts. That's the witch that the boy was talking about, that Chabo was talking about, and you know, and he's just like, what the hell, you know, thinking that. So then we go and so that bomb gets dropped on Usopp, you know, we already, of course, knew that, but then she goes and drops another bomb, and she says, and he says, are you sure? And she goes, well, yeah, of course, she grew up in this house. She's my stepsister. We're like, what? Okay, so now we find out there was a resemblance between the two of them, and I had a little bit of a sneaking suspicion as the chapter was going on that she had some ties to, you know, to Nami, but now we find out that this is Nami's stepsister. So hopefully things are going to stir up over here a little bit, and we're going to get a little more of that backstory, because Nami really does interest me. I kind of want to see what her deal is. So, so that's how the chapter ends, and we're certainly looking forward to the next one. We did not see Luffy at all in this chapter, or Arlong, and this is obviously the development part of it, and hopefully Usopp will wind up, you know, meeting up with them then soon. The chapter does end. I forgot the last page. The last page is actually the pirates going in, and the fishermen, bringing Zoro in and announcing him as, this is who we found, and this and that, and and he basically makes mention of, let them know that it's a great, that basically like that he's this big badass that's coming in there. And so they've taken him to Arlong. That's where he's going in front of now, and I guess we'll see in the next chapter, what happens with that. So let me know what you think. All in all, I thought it was fun. It's good pushing things forward and certainly finding out more with these different areas, these different characters, and just really, it's like I said, I love how it's coming along. But let me know what you think, as always, Nation, in the comments down below. Feel free to hit that like button if you think I deserve it, and then of course subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll look forward to catching you in the next one, Nation.
As always, thank you for watching, brothers and sisters. Be sure to subscribe and take a look at some of my other videos. Thanks. See you next time, Nation.